I'll be taking you on how to make a fluffy vanilla cake, on how to decorate it and how to decorate one. So the basic ingredients and equipment I'll be making do with today is my measuring scale. I have my mixer, and if you've got no mixer, you can possibly use your hand as well. That's not a problem. Then let's go straight into all of the ingredients and the recipe for vanilla cake. So the ingredients, I have my butter, I have my sugar, I have my flour, I have my baking powder, I've got my eggs, and I've got my flavor, my vanilla extract. So I'll be popping in the recipe in the comment section, so for the purpose of those who might miss it out. So after this class, I'll be popping the recipe in the chat. But before then, I'm making do with 500 grams of butter. This is 500 grams of butter. This is 500 grams of sugar. Everything has been measured out actually, due to just to save us time. So just pop it on the scale and measure out 500 grams. So I have 500 grams of butter. I have 500 grams of sugar. I'll be measuring out 500 grams of flour as well. Then 1.5 tablespoons of baking powder. Why I did not measure out the flour was because so you can see how I'm going to measure out the flour, since I've measured out the sugar here. Then I have my flavor. Then I'll be making do with 10 eggs for the 500 grams of butter we are going for. Someone is asking a question, say, can we use something else if we don't have vanilla? Can we use something else if we don't have vanilla? What type of cake are you making? I don't get that question. Can we use something else if we don't have vanilla? Do you mean the flavor, if we don't have vanilla flavor? But the type of cake we are making this afternoon is called vanilla cake. It's the general type of cake. It's a sponge cake. Usually used in parties and requested from customers, from anybody who knows cake very well and who is a lover of cake. So we are actually making vanilla this afternoon. So I've listed all of the ingredients and I'll still be popping them in the chat so we can have access and record to it. So the very first thing we want to do is to pop our butter and sugar into the mixer to beat it. Why are we popping our butter and sugar into the mixer? So we can beat it to become fluffy and double in size, so it can actually be light, free from hair, and be alright for our vanilla cake. That's the major reason why we beat up our butter and sugar, to double in size, to be light, to be free, like to have air in it. And you know, whatever you have air in it will become light, will become so fluffy. That's why we have and why we beat butter and sugar. So permit me just 1 minute, 2 seconds. I want to grab my mixer bowl so we can all see how I'll be doing that. So I've got my mixer bowl here. I've got my sugar here. My sugar goes in 500 grams. My butter goes in 500 grams. And I pop in my paddle attachment. So you might not be hearing me so well, but I'll be stopping the mixer at intervals because while this is going on, I want to dish out some vital tips we need to learn from as regards making vanilla cake, and I also want us to continue with what needs to be done. So I will try as much as possible to be loud. I don't know. That is. So while that is going on, we need to carry on some other activities as well, like our eggs, measuring out our flour, greasing out our pans, and all of that. So while we have our butter and our sugar mixing on, we need to continue to mix it up at intervals. Take it out. So the butter and sugar approximately is going to take about 45 minutes to have a very good mix. So I mentioned earlier, can anybody still hear me? I will try as much as possible to be loud.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you so much, ma. So while we are mixing up our cake, we are mixing up our butter, our vanilla butter. We will start off with our eggs. So I made mention that we'll be making do with 10 eggs. That's 500 grams of eggs. So we'll be making do with 10 eggs. We have our eggs here. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. So I'll be breaking 10 eggs right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have our eggs here already. We set aside. Then we go in with our flour. We have our mixer here, our scale here, just to measure. I think I would like to bring in the scale so you can see. So I'm measuring out 500 grams of flour. That's it. Then we give that a good sieve. So while we are sieving our flour, we have so many reasons why we are sieving our flour. We are sieving our flour basically because for the flour to be light, to be free from dirt, to be free from germs, lumps, weevils, and the rest. So that's one of the reasons on why we keep sieving our flour. So we are not just sieving our flour because of sieving sake. All these things have their own importance and what they add to your cake making progress. So now we sieve our flour. And you can see. So my baking powder goes into my flour as well. I don't just add my baking powder directly into the cake batter. I add my baking powder directly into the flour. So in cake making, there's what we call all dry ingredients moves together and all liquid ingredients moves together. So we'll try as much as possible to incorporate all dry ingredients at one bowl, then the other ingredients in the other bowl. So I mentioned for 500 grams of butter, 500 grams of sugar, 500 grams of egg, we'll be making do with 1.5 tablespoons of baking powder. That's it. I've measured it out and I'll sieve. And that's it for me. So we have our egg, we have our flour as well, and we have our vanilla extract. That's it. So one major thing we need to do as well is to line our pans. So we have our clean pans here. And why do we line our pans? We line our pans basically for our cakes to come out clean, to come out unburnt, to come out not sticky to the pan. And what do we use in lining our pans? We make use of butter and a baking paper or a parchment paper, what we call a parchment paper. So I line our pans, basically taking a brush, rubbing tiny butter around the pan. Rubbing tiny butter around the pan. Please, if you are following, can you unmute and tell me you are following? Thank you. If you are following, can you unmute and tell me you are
We are
following?
following.
Thank you.
We are following.
Thank you. Thank you, ma. Thank you.
We're following.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I have my baking paper here. So I'll be showing you shortly on how you can line your pan. I'll be bringing the camera down to the table so you can typically see how that is done. So just take my parchment, put my pan over that, trace out the circumference, of that. Then we cut out. Hold on this, please. I want to take the knife. So I've traced out the circumference. I don't know if you can see. Then you give that a good clean cut. So while I'm at that, I want to give our mixer batter a good stir. So I've actually beat time. I have an already baked vanilla cake that we'll be decorating with, so we don't waste time. While I show the process of how to mix or make the batter of vanilla cake, we'll make that. So while we are done, I'll just pop out the already baked vanilla cake I have so we can start with the decoration class and not waste further time for that. Do you all like the sound of that?
Yeah.
Please, can you let me know if you like the sound of what I just said? So look at what we have at the minute. It's still not yet fluffy. have the line pan and you put it in. Then you have to cut out the sides as well for the cake. So for the sides, so we have our already lined cake pan. We do that for the second one. And also so now I think we'll concentrate basically on our cake batter. So we can see how this is going. So at intervals again, we give it a good mix, a good stir, bringing everything together. So while that is going on, I would love to take questions if you've got any. I would love to take questions if you've got any, and I would love to dish out tips as well, further tips as regards vanilla cake and what we need to know as regards the oven management, and every other thing. If you've got questions, please put them in the chat. All right. Someone says, what did you use to put on the pan? What did you use to put on the pan? I used butter. Do you mean what do I use in? Do you mean what did I use? Do you mean what do I use in rubbing the pan? I made use of butter, and I made use of a brush to stick the butter around the pan before I lined the pan with a parchment paper. Okay. Please, was it 500 grams of flour you measured? Yes, 500 grams of flour. So I'll pop this recipe in the chat now. Vanilla recipe. Vanilla recipe. So butter, 500 grams. I'm in the chat. I'm trying to pop the recipe in the chat. Butter 500 grams. Sugar 500 grams. Flour 500 grams. Egg 500 grams. That's 10 pieces. Butter, sugar, flour, egg, baking powder, one and a half tablespoon. Then vanilla extract, 2 to 3 cups. Let me pin that. So I've popped the vanilla recipe in the chat. Okay, someone said, is it all-purpose flour or self-raising flour? So for this, it's self-raising flour. For this recipe, it's self-raising flour. I got this at Aldi, and you can get it anywhere. So it's self-raising flour. Please keep the question coming. So for the vanilla cake, there are so many do's and don'ts. There are things you need to do, and there are things you don't need to do. I'm trying to buy time so we can have our batter in the oven while we commence the decoration. So, number one, the do's is for you to buy your ingredients fresh. You don't need to have your ingredients at home at a very long time. You don't need to have your ingredients at home at a very long time. Probably you've gotten your eggs 3 weeks ago and you just remembered, oh, I need to bake a vanilla cake. And all of a sudden, the eggs you bought a month ago, that's what you want to use. Those things are not fresh. So your flour, your egg, everything must be fresh. Number two, your oven. You have to be making use of the right temperature of oven. And vanilla cake, we bake at 150 degrees. Please remember, 150 degrees. We bake at 150 degrees for our vanilla cake. Then our eggs, 10 eggs. We have 10 eggs here. So someone might also ask me, I'm baking 500 grams of flour. What measurement, what quantity of cake, what size of cake will I derive from this? So I bring to you that this 500 grams of flour would conveniently give you 3 size 8 pans, size 8 cakes, I mean. This is a size 8 pan, a size 8. We'll give you thin layers, not so thick layers. So we'll give you 2 to 3, depending on how big, how tall your cake layer is. So if you are doing more than this recipe, you have to multiply by 2. What I mean by multiply by 2 is 500 times 2. So probably you want to bake for a birthday, you want the cake to be high and all of that. This recipe that we've done today, I will do it in 2 places. So that is going to be 1,000 grams of butter, 1,000 grams of sugar, 1,000 grams of egg, 1,000 grams of 3 tablespoons of baking powder. So we'll double our measurements. We'll multiply by 2. If you are doing less, probably a smaller cake to this, you divide by 2. So what I'm giving you this afternoon, you divide it by 2. Probably you just want to have a snack at home, or you just want to keep in the fridge to munch. You don't want something really big. You might decide to divide this recipe I've given you this afternoon by 2. So what are you going to have? You're going to have 250 grams of butter, 250 grams of flour, 250 grams of egg, and divide 1.5 tablespoons by 2. So basically that's it for the recipe. Someone said approximately how many cups of flour is 500 grams? Thank you very much for that question. So let me bring a measuring cup so I can explain. So I have my measuring cup here, and approximately this cup equivalent in flour is 100 grams. 100 grams. So I love the question. I love the fact that someone asked that question. Situations whereby you don't have a scale. If you have a measuring cup is 100 grams. A cup of flour is 100 grams, while a cup of sugar is 200 grams. So let's say, for example, you want to measure out 500 grams of flour. You'll be measuring out 5 of this cup for flour. If you are measuring for sugar, you'll be measuring 2.5 of this cup. 1 cup of this for sugar is 200 grams. So when you measure 2 of these, that's 400. Then the half cup is going to be 100. That will make up 500 grams. I hope I'm clear on that. Someone said, what's the biggest cake fail a learner can have? The biggest cake fail a learner can have is not to properly mix yeast or batter well. That's why we want to take our time to mix our batter so well, because it's not enough to have a very baked vanilla cake, but to have a very soft and fluffy vanilla cake, so that at the end of your baking, probably when the cake is full, you don't have a hard cake. So we are incorporating here, we are not just only mixing, we are not just mixing the batter, but we are incorporating air into that. So it's going to make it light and fluffy. So the biggest fail is not for you, is for you not to have a very fluffy cake. So someone said, I joined late. Please, I can't hear well. Can you increase your voice or microphone? All right. Apologies for that. I've done that. Thank you
Sorry,
so
I
much.
I think the mixer is interfering. How many grams of, or how many cups do you say make a gram? Oh, what am I saying? Sorry. For the sugar, how many
Yeah.
cups?
For the sugar, 200 grams. This is
Okay,
a
it's one
200
cup.
grams.
Okay.
Yeah. For the flour, is 100 grams. So in
Okay.
situations whereby you don't have a mixer, you don't have a scale, you can make do with a flour. And I'm also a preacher of starting with what you have and where you are. There was a time whereby the only thing I had was just these two equipments, that's my measuring cup and my measuring spoon. And I was basically using my hands to turn. But if you can't get a stand mixer, there's avenue for you to get a hand mixer. I think it's less than 20 pounds. So I don't think we have excuse for anything. Nothing should stop you from achieving what you want to achieve. So start with what you have and start with where you are. I hope I've answered as much questions as I can. Please keep the questions coming while we have our cake batter mixing. Any other question? So someone might ask, how do I know when my cake is ready in the oven? How do you know when your cake is ready? It's typically by inserting a clean skewer or a clean toothpick. Typically, if it comes out clean, your cake is done, is ready, and that's it. So that's another question someone might ask. And where do I shop of? Where do I shop from? I shop basically from Aldi, all the stores around. I shop from Aldi, Tesco, Sainsbury, everywhere. So all of these things are not limited to certain stores, they are everywhere. So that's it. I hope you all can get the recipe. I don't know, I want to try and pin it to the chat. I don't think I can do that. Any questions? Or you've got suggestions as well? We are all here to learn. So basically that's it for vanilla cake. Really, the secret is have a very fluffy batter. Your butter and sugar, mix it very well, and you are good to go. Someone said, please, could you help speak up a bit louder? All right. I guess it's the mixer sound that is actually taking up that. So I think if we don't have any other question, let's speed up the process by our methodology on the vanilla cake.
Okay. This is 100 now.
So you might not be seeing my, okay, let me just pop so you can hear me. So for the method, we have our butter and our sugar mixed. We have our flour sieved. We have our eggs and our vanilla flavor. So the method is incorporating each one after the other. So the egg goes in bits, you mix. The flour goes in bits, you mix. The egg goes in bits, you mix. The flour goes in bits, you mix. That's the method on how to incorporate all of these ingredients. It's not as if you have the egg all at once or you have the flour all at once. No, you won't have a very good output by that. So now that we have our butter and sugar, so I forgot to say, you can make do with either, you can make do with either a granulated sugar or a castor sugar. Whichever is your choice, you can make do with. So you can see I'm turning out at intervals. So it's about time now we incorporate our eggs and our flour, our eggs and our flour. Someone might decide to ask me, Ma, you are not making use of milk. You are not making use of preservative. So I'm a firm believer of not adding preservatives to my cake. Reason being because, can everybody hear me on what I want to say. Reason being because do you have, I need to put off the mixer so you can hear properly. Do you add preservatives to your rice or to your yam or to your noodle you eat at home? I'm very sure the answer is no. Preservative is not ideal. Whatever food that is ideal, preservative is not added. So I don't add preservatives to my cake. I've had series of people ask me, do you have preservatives to your cake? How do you keep your cakes for so long that it doesn't get spoiled and all of that? I can tell you for a fact that this recipe conveniently will stay on the tabletop, I mean room temperature tabletop, for 2 weeks, like on the tabletop, and it can stay conveniently 4 weeks in the fridge. So whatever you put in your mouth doesn't need a preservative. It's not healthy. It's not ideal. So I don't use preservative for my cakes. Now, the other thing I think I've forgotten now. Let's get going. I'll remember as we go by. I wanted to chip in something, but skipped my mind. So now I hope you all can see. Can you all see the mixer? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, what I wanted to say was about milk. Another thing is, I don't make use of milk in my recipe. I want you to note that all of these things, I don't make use of milk in my recipe. Have it at the back of your mind that immediately you've made use of milk in your recipe, you've reduced the shelf life of your cake. If you have milk in your recipe, if the cake is supposed to last for 4 weeks, for 8 weeks, just know that you've reduced the shelf life by 2. So if you incorporate milk in your recipe, the cake won't stay for long. That's another thing I want to chip in. So it's not as if it's not good to incorporate milk in your recipe if you want, but just be reminded that the recipe, you have to eat the cake off immediately. So then I put in my flour as well. Don't forget we have our baking powder in our flour. You want to start by mixing on a low speed so you don't have the flour everywhere. So mixing on a low speed, then turning it up. That's it. Then going again with our eggs. That's it. Then a bit of flour again. And we are done with the egg. Then finally, our flour. Can someone tell me what's left? What's not yet added in there? Please, can you unmute and tell me what is not yet added in there?
Vanilla flavor.
Vanilla flavor. Thank you very much. So now we are going to be popping in our vanilla flavor into that. So I increase the speed so it can all incorporate all of the ingredients together. So we can have our batter is ready. So one very last important thing I keep telling anybody who wants to have a very good output is to always measure out your batter. You don't just fill it in. And whilst you are at the last stage of incorporating your eggs and your flour, please do well to put on your oven, to preheat your oven. We'll be baking at 150-degree mark on the oven. I'll be showing you shortly. So let me go right there. I'll be showing you shortly on the 150-degree mark. Is there a way I can? So this is the 150-degree mark. We have different types of oven dough. So that's the 150. I hope everyone can see. So it's on 150
Yes,
now.
we can.
You can always increase it to 200 just to preheat your oven as well. So by the time you pop in your cake, you take it back to 150. It's just for the oven to get hot before bringing in your cake. So why don't we pop our cake or our batter in a cold oven? If you should peradventure pop in your batter into a cold oven without preheating the oven, it won't rise. It won't take up that flight, to rise, and it will slow down the process. That's where you have air bubbles, that's where you have cracks on the cake and all of that. So we have to preheat our oven. Our oven is on preheat now for like about 5 minutes before we pop in our batter. So now this is called vanilla batter, but we are making a vanilla cake. So it's a batter and we are making a vanilla cake. So then back to what I was explaining. So for you to have an evenly baked cake, you need to measure out, you need to measure out your batter. so you can have an evenly layered cake. So now I think I want to do 600 grams each for this. Okay, probably let me do 700. So I have 726. I will take out, yeah, that's 708. That's 710. So I have 700 grams. So that's it. Then I pop the second pan on as well. And I measure out 700. So that's 703. 698. 709. 703. 702. That's 700. So we've measured out that. And another important thing we would not forget to do is to tap out our cake batter. Why do we do this? For us to let out air bubbles. Air bubbles. Can you see how leveled it is? So I'm letting out air bubbles. So with this, we can pop our cake batter into the oven. Let me go so you can see how I do that. So someone will see me popping in this little container. It's just water. This is just to lock up the moisture. And don't forget, I said we'll be turning back our temperature mark down to 150 degrees. The 150-degree mark. So it's at 150-degree mark. And the water, the purpose of the water in there is to lock up the moisture of our vanilla cake, so it doesn't dry out, considering the weather at the minute, considering that whatever you place down, even if it is bread, for 5 minutes it's dried. So the water in there will lock up the moisture, and at the end of it all, we won't have a very dry cake. So we've come to the end of how to make or bake a vanilla cake. Please, do you have any questions for me? And if you know you don't want to ask your questions here, probably you want to ask them after the class, I'm available, I'm approachable. You can have my number.
Hello, Sister Tolu. There are some questions there already.
All right, thank you very much, Ma. All right. So someone said, how many spoons of vanilla flavor? So in the recipe, I said 2 to 3 cups 2 to 3 cups. That's the cap of a bottle. 2 to 3 cups. So you can make do of 2 or 3 cups of that. Someone said, how long should we preheat the oven for? 5 to 10 minutes is fine. And at what temperature? 150 degrees. 150 degrees. I'm trying to pop that in the charts for oven temperature. All right, temperature should be 150. Yeah, someone answered already. So preheat your oven for 5 to 10 minutes max, and it's fine. And the baking time for this cake is usually between 30 to 45 minutes. So peradventure we have a smaller cake. A smaller cake takes between 20 to 30 minutes. So depending how small your cake is, the smaller your cake, the shorter the bake time. The larger your cake, the longer the bake time. Can we just put the mix at any level in the oven? I don't get that question. Do you mean any layer? Do you mean any layer in the oven? Can we just put, okay, yeah. So you have to determine where the heat from your oven is coming from. So it's just a way of you researching and studying your oven. There are some ovens where the heat is coming from underneath. There are some ovens where the heat is coming from above. So you need to study and play around with your oven to really know that. So for me, my heat is coming from above, from on top of my oven. So that's where you can see I had to place the cake up. But peradventure, if I have loads of cakes to bake, that doesn't mean I won't put the cake underneath. So it just simply means the cake on top gets done faster than the one below. So as the one on top is getting done faster, I pop them out and I put the one under, I put them up. So that's basically what I do.
I'm sorry, I have a question. When you said a smaller, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
When you said a smaller cake would take lesser time, do you mean like the quantity in the pan? So you know this one you did 700 grams. So do you mean if it's like a smaller quantity, like maybe 500 grams, then it would bake for shorter
No,
time?
I mean a smaller quantity in size. In size. Probably I'm baking this type of cake now compared to
Okay.
what we popped in. Smaller
Okay.
quantity in size. It gets faster. It doesn't
Okay.
mean the grams. So if it is a cupcake takes 15 to 20 minutes to get done. So you can't leave the time for a cupcake for the size of cake we just popped inside the oven.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question? Okay. Please keep the
Okay, I have
question
a
coming in.
Yes,
Someone
there's a question. Is it that it's only vanilla that you must put? You didn't add milk, evaporated milk, or is it that's optional?
Yeah, so in my recipe, if I'm to give you milk, I'll put milk and I'll put optional.
Okay.
I don't use it because it reduces the shelf life of my cake. If I had milk, either evaporated, skimmed milk, whole milk, it will not allow the cake to last for how long it ought to last for.
Okay. And you did not add preservative.
I mentioned that I don't use preservatives in my cake. An ideal cake does not call for preservatives. If you make use of preservative in whatever food, you know, cake is also a food. Cake is what you put in the mouth, goes into your body. It's not ideal. All these preservatives are chemicals. And
But you can use national preservative,
we
like
can use
lemon.
what?
National preservatives like lemon.
Lemon. Yeah, we can
Yes.
use lemon, but not for this type of cake. So lemon calls for fruit cakes. When you have fruit cakes, wedding cakes, wedding cakes tends to stay longer. So we can use lemon,
Yeah.
we can use brandy and all of that. But this is a vanilla cake. So this is a basic sponge cake where you can just bake for kids at home, bake for the general public and all of that. And I forgot to mention
That's the one you
the
can.
500 grams of sugar we have in this recipe. If you are baking for an adult, you tend to reduce it. But for children, you can have it
Add
as
that.
it is. Why
Yes.
do I say so? So, number one, sugar is basically not a sweetener, it's also a preservative in this context. Sugar
Okay.
preserves your cake. So, don't say because I don't want too much sugar, I am an adult, maybe I can reduce the sugar to 300. No, it's also a form of preservatives. And I've always said to my past students that baking is science. You see, we added baking powder. The baking powder will speed up the rate of the reaction. We added vanilla flavor. We added butter, and all of these things. I'll give you an assignment for you to all go and research what all of the ingredients, what they do in the cake. So it's not a matter of flour, butter, and sugar. What does butter do in a cake? What does flour does in it? What does it do in a cake? What does egg do in a cake? So if you keep studying and researching, you'll be very conversant on all of these things. So it's not a matter of incorporating and mixing everything together. So every of their thing have their
Okay,
importance
I have
and
one more question for you.
okay.
Okay, so, since you did not add preservatives, for how long can you keep this type of vanilla cake?
Thank you very much. I've answered that question before now. I said for 2 weeks, you can put it probably on your tabletop in your kitchen. 2 weeks. But if you keep it in your fridge, it can stay for 4 weeks. And you can
Okay.
decide to freeze it as well. There are
Okay.
situations, I have little ones at home, whereby I don't have all of the time to keep baking and baking all the time. There are times where I just bake a certain type of cake and I pop it in the freezer. When they want to eat it, I bring it out, I cut a tiny piece and I microwave it. It's as soft as ever. I want you to try that.
No, I know about that one. Putting it in a freezer when you
Yeah.
microwave it, it's very fluffy.
Yes,
Okay,
very, very fluffy.
what do you have to do? What do you have to do? Talk about baking powder. Is it not chemical too?
Baking powder, it's not. You can see it's perfect baking powder. It's perfect for cake. It's not a chemical saute to preservative. If you
Okay.
want to derive where preservatives, all those sodium, whatever, where it's gotten
So
from,
then
you'll be shocked.
potassium
You'll
and
be very shocked.
what
I
about
want you to try it. Just take a bit of preservative, put it inside water, and see how it will bubble up.
okay, if you're not putting a powder preservative, what about gin? All these gin or rum
Yeah, that's why I said those ones are good for wedding cakes.
for wedding cakes, okay, or
Yeah,
fruit cake, okay,
yeah.
because sometimes to preserve
The
your resin.
secret, the secret to this vanilla cake, yeah, the secret to this vanilla cake for you to stay longer is for you to
Okay.
mix it very well. Mix it very well till it's light and fluffy, double in size.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So
All right.
very shortly we'll be moving to decoration, and I think that's the most anticipated section everyone will want to have. And for context, I already have a vanilla cake baked, so we don't waste so much time. It's going to be so tiring when we have to wait for the cake we popped in the oven. So I have an already baked cake. We'll just switch into our decoration class, our buttercream decoration class, and we can take it from there. So I would like everyone to have like a 5 minute break,
Okay.
get a toilet break, grab a cup of tea, cup of water, ice cream, the weather is hot, and I'll be back in 5 minutes.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. turnover. Sabe? Okay, I don't say anything.
Welcome back, everybody. Do I have everybody back on here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. So we can finish up in time. Welcome back, everybody. Let's start. So this is typically the prototype of what we'll be getting by the cake. Our vanilla cake is done. So I already have this baked already, and why I did this was for us to save a bit of time. So this is how you have it, and if you decide to want to keep it in the fridge, you wrap it up with cling film, and that's it. I have my cake turntable here. I have my cake board. I have my cake board as well. I have my palette knife. I have my cake combs of different designs. I have my piping bag and my cake nozzle. So this afternoon basically is for us to make buttercream, how to make buttercream, and how to decorate a simple vanilla cake. So let's say from this class, everyone should be able to bake their next birthday cake. Am I right? From this class, everyone should be able to bake their next birthday cake for their child. So just like we did earlier on, I'm just giving my my bowl a clean wipe. So for buttercream, I'll still be popping in the recipe in there. Someone said hi. Chioma, hi. Hello. So for our buttercream this afternoon, the recipe is basically butter and icing sugar. Butter and icing sugar. And the measurement is 500 grams of butter to 500 grams of icing sugar. Basically, that's it. And in this recipe, you might decide to add a tiny drop of vanilla flavor just to taste, or you leave it, it's optional. Then we have our 2-layer of vanilla cake, and I'll be showing you how to make the buttercream and how you can confidently decorate a cake. So give me 2 seconds. So I'm back. I'm still available for any questions you might have. So I'm going to clean up our mixer. So the very first thing you will love to do is to beat up our butter. Beat it up. I'm not just leaving the butter, I'm trying to catch every one of them together. So the aim of the butter, the aim of why we are mixing this butter is to basically allow the butter get soft. You should all be able to testify that this has doubled in size from where we started on. So now we've beat up our butter, 500 grams of butter, and we have here 500 grams of icing sugar. And I will not hesitate to give it a sieve as well, like I said, just to make things light up, to remove dirt, remove impurities, lumps. So we've added everything in there. Then we incorporate. Please give me just a few seconds. I want to add up this program on my WhatsApp status. I just remembered. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. And that's it. We are done with our buttercream. So can you see? So it's just your butter and your sugar. Then we move to the business of the day. Is everyone excited to see how to cover a cake? So we still have our cake batter in the oven. Someone said, how long do you keep the cake in the oven? So for 30 to 45 minutes. 30 to 45 minutes. I hope you can hear me. So I hope everyone can see. This is a very vital session. So the first step into making or decorating a vanilla cake is for you to crumb coat. And what is crumb coat? Giving it a very thin coating to just lock in the crumbs. Then I do that by layering it with a thin layer of buttercream. With a thin layer of buttercream, then putting that on it. So I took a bit of buttercream out from the main buttercream, so I don't put back my crumbs back into the main buttercream. So what I need to do now is to so what we are doing is crumb coating. This is not the main decoration. What this simply does is to just lock up the moisture, lock up the crumbs, sorry. Lock up the crumbs. And that's it. So this is just to lock up the crumbs, and I will let this sit aside for about 10 to 15 minutes, or for a faster one for about 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. I'll rather pop this in the fridge because we don't have much time, so this can actually solidify before we put on the main coating. That's the main decoration for the cake. Please, is there any question? Everyone is silent. So this is it.
There's a question in the chat box.
Okay, thank you. Said, is it compulsory to use 500 grams of butter to 500 grams of icing, or it depends on the size of cake? Absolutely depends on the size of cake, but for me personally, 500 grams of butter is the least you can do. Because let's say you want to do a 250 grams of butter, probably you want to use it to cover up a cupcake. So this is the least you can do. See how minute it is. So 500 grams is the least you can do. And if you have it probably the leftover, you can always keep it in an airtight container and put it in your fridge. So she said, can I make use of 250 grams of butter to 500 grams of icing? No way. You have a very, very cracky and hard butter icing. So this is a ratio. It's a ratio. It's a ratio. I think I should pop in the buttercream recipe. Buttercream recipe. Let me pop in the cake so I have a chart. So buttercream. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Someone said, what about 250 grams icing to 250 grams butter? Absolutely. You can do that. 250 to 500 grams butter to 500 grams icing sugar. Then vanilla flavor is optional. So absolutely, 500 grams of butter to 500 grams of icing sugar is doable, and if you want to half it, you divide by 2, so it's all right. So any questions from here?
Sorry, I don't know if this is a silly question, but you know, when you were doing the cake, you were saying that the sugar is like a form of preservative and not to reduce the quantity. But for this icing, can we do the standard 500 butter, then now half the icing sugar instead, so that it's
No.
not, so that the icing is not too sweet, or it has to be the same quantity?
It has to be the same
The same.
quantity. Yeah, we
Okay.
can't cheat icing sugar. You know, it's like a form of covering for the cake. So if it is too watery, it won't stay. And if it is too hard, it will keep falling off.
Okay, so both has to be the same. Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
what has to be same.
Okay.
Any other question, please?
Yes, ma, there is a question.
Okay.
Please, for a beginner that doesn't have a mixer, maybe hand mixer or stand mixer, can you do the butter icing with a spatula?
Absolutely, man. You can. So you
Really?
pop your butter in your bowl and you cream till it's light.
Okay,
It's
why do you
very
cream
light.
butter? Why do you first cream the butter before the icing sugar, before adding the icing?
It's just as if you are creaming. You are turning it in a clockwise or anti-clockwise motion.
No, you didn't get the question. I say, why did you cream butter first before adding the icing sugar?
Okay, so it can be light. We creamed our butter first for icing, so it can be light.
Okay,
So it
okay,
can be
thank you.
light, yeah. You know
All right,
how
thank
butter is
you.
always in a block form. You will not want to just put your
All
butter
right.
there and pour your icing sugar. It's not going to give us the result we want. Any other question? I hope we all have enjoyed this class so far.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So we are just waiting for our cake for like probably 10 minutes. Let me give a 10-minute break and we'll come back. So I don't keep us on our seats. 10 minutes. So by 1:20, we should be back. By 1:20, I'll be back here.